Hello, how are y'all doing?
Hopefully the volume's good today. We switched microphones up. I'm going to try something new today. So Denny, we're on part number 2.
Part number 2. We're getting ready to build our ground seat. We put in the seat strainer, but that's actually just the foundation for the ground seat. So we're getting ready to do that right now. But I'm getting ready to use that water.
I know. Let me remove a dog. Bruce.
We have a dog amongst us.
All right.
That's normal though. All right. You can put in however many pieces you want to in the ground seat, and I cut to 4 pieces for this ground seat, but I'm only going to use 3 because I've already got quite a bit of rise here. You know, and I never know what I'm going to have as far as the rise in the seat until after I put this strainer on. This strainer rears up pretty good in front, so I'm not going to add that much to it. All right. All I did since we left Wednesday is I folded these 2 pieces back over that were covering these stirrup leather plugs, and I cemented them down. You wouldn't have to, I just did, because I wanted to make sure I had plenty of room in there for my stirrup leathers. But anyway, the first piece of this ground seat looks like this. What it's going to do is fit here, and it's going to crawl up on the fork of the saddle. You don't want it to be down here. You want it to actually crawl up, because that's going to add some meat to the back end of this fork here. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is wet this up. Put my pattern on and trace it off. I left myself plenty of room here, as you can see. These ground seat patterns you can cut to exact dimension because the shape of them isn't, I mean, just the general shape is all you're going to be after. The main thing on a ground seat is when you get everything on the saddle, you don't want any angles. You want everything to be a curve from one direction to another. So this is going to sit something like this, but I'm going to skive all these edges down. There's a lot of skiving involved in the ground seat. I'm going to skive them to the feather.
Your stirrup blocks that you put in, how long do they stay there?
Till the very end, till I get ready to put the stirrup leathers actually on the saddle. Yeah, I definitely want them in when I'm building this ground seat, because I have to build around that. This stuff I like to work pretty sloppy wet. I need to move this a little bit.
Yeah, you're good. I'm not using that overhead one right now.
Now I'm just going to mark where this is so I can spread some cement.
You're marking on the actual tree there.
Yeah. And that, you know, this isn't real important. If you don't want to mark it, you don't have to. I just don't want to spread more cement than I really need. Probably ought to get myself a piece of paper out. And this leather is wet, so initially this cement isn't going to stick real well, but when the piece actually dries, it'll tack up good. I could use the dextrine paste on this too if I wanted to, and I might on the final top piece. I don't know what I'm doing from 1 minute to the next. I always change my opinion halfway through, it seems like. But that's the nice part about it. You can do a lot of different things. Now I want to be careful and not get cement down on this plug, because I do not want to cement this ground seat to the plug. Now I'll take the hairdryer and hurry this cement deal up a little bit. Alright. Let's see if I can get this on about halfway straight. It's halfway straight. Alright, now if you were all here in person, you could feel the lumps and bumps here, but I'm going to take my handy little safety skiver and kind of start shaping this. You can't shape this seat all at one time. You got to do it, that's why we build it in layers. And I'm just skiving off all the high points here, or as much as I can of them. You got to do it in stages. That's why there's different layers. The idea is to keep the saddle as narrow as possible in through here and here, from here to here. The wider it is, the wider your legs have to spread apart. And that's it. We're talking about for the comfort of the rider here, not the horse. Because this has nothing to do with the way the saddle sits on the horse. Okay, now I've cut all the way through right here. So that's as far down as I can go with this layer. As far as getting ready to that lump that's there. You want to try and keep it kind of symmetrical from side to side too, because you don't want a whopper-jawed saddle. This is a messy job, but you need to hire your own floor sweeper when you do this. Alright, I'm going to stop right there, I think. I might take a little bit of this off right here. Because even though you skive it, there's still a bit of a lump there. Alright, we're ready for our next piece now. And this one just graduated a hair bigger. But remember, I'm still going to crawl up on the fork here. I'm going to cut this exactly like the pattern is. If I had the right piece. And I want to get this pretty wet. The reason being, that way it's easy to bend and it's easy to skive and it's easy to make it take that shape that I need. Makes it easier to cut too when it's wet. This is a big old heavy piece of neck leather. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a good 1/4 of an inch thick.
Sure is a nice.
Way that knife.
Sure is a nice head knife.
It is. It is. Can you imagine what it'd be like to cut this with a dull knife?
Oh, I can't imagine what it'd be cutting it with a snap-off blade style knife.
Oh yeah.
They'd snap off.
Well, you know, there's lots of saddle makers that don't use a round knife or a head knife, but man, to me, it's so versatile.
Right.
You can cut with it, you can skive with it, you can make
You know my
blade.
experience with them, and you know why I don't use them. That's why they don't let me brush hog too, right?
How'd that come out?
It came out all right. You know, it was an expensive brush hogging, but I got the old boy's power back up. So.
Have you seen him yet?
Oh yeah. It was a real expensive way to meet the new neighbor. How about that?
And he was thrilled.
Oh,
right?
No, you know what? Super cool. Actually, these are my people. This guy owns a bunch of businesses, and his hobby is going to Meekum auto auctions.
Oh yeah.
And finding old hot rods and flipping them, and just and I'm like, well, you are my people.
Cool.
He says we want to put a couple old hot rods up here for sale up against the highway if you don't mind. It's like, it ain't me that's going to be upset, it's my wife. I'm going to be out there looking at them.
You're counting your money.
Yeah, well, I'm counting my pennies here. What is this, Denny? Day 2, 3?
This is day 2.
Day
yes.
2, yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, day 1, all we did was
We were working on the horn yesterday when I come through.
We cut all the parts, rough cut all the
gotcha,
parts.
Gotcha.
And then we put in the metal seat strainer, and I covered the horn and the gullet.
Nice.
So today we're actually building the ground seat.
Nice.
The ground seat, you just kind of chip and hack and whack on it, because all you're trying to do is make things smooth. And you've got that metal strainer that you're going over, which has a lot of angles to it.
Right.
Those nail heads are sticking up, so you've got to have enough leather that you can skive off and get rid of all the high points.
Have a real nice smooth transition.
Yeah, and transition. I guess that's the word that I need to
That's the word.
harp on, because you want everything to transition
Right.
in a curve. You don't want any angles.
Yep. I guess it'd be kind of like building a heel or a sole or anything. You don't want any ribs in the bottom of your foot when you're. you want to do a lap joint or a half sole or something. You want to make sure you get that joint all the way flat.
Right, right. And this, this is just the skiving that I'm doing now is just a rough foreground of what I'm going to end up with, because I'm going to skive a bunch of this off yet.
Well, that's gonna be a big old thick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I still have the final piece
Right.
to put on too. But you know, this is a normal way to do it, so. I think it's normal.
Well, I was gonna say it looks normal for a quality saddle.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna leave you with it, my friend.
All right.
If anybody can do it, it's you.
We'll see about that later. Thanks for the visit.
Thank you.
Maybe ran across this answer to this question again, but I think it's an okay time to ask it.
Sure. All I'm doing is spreading glue. Getting
Is it
giggly.
generally better to sky the seat while damp?
Oh yes. It's impossible almost to skive a really dense piece of vegetable tan leather unless it's wet. Not impossible, but it's difficult. But when it's wet, you know, things just happen a lot easier. It cuts easier, it skives easier, it shapes easier. Here again, I've still got to be careful of that skirt or that stirrup leather plug.
We're trying not to get glue on there.
Right. If you glue it, it makes it really difficult to get out of there.
Without tearing something else up.
Mm-hmm. And this glue isn't really structural. It's just to hold the pieces together while you shape them. You know, because this isn't going to take any strain. Stuff rarely, if ever, falls up anyway.
And being this on the seat, this is going to be downward pressure most of the time.
Right.
If it's got upward pressure on it, then your horse is probably upside down.
Yeah. You were wishing it had downward pressure.
All right.
All right. Hair dryer again. Kind of seating this down a little bit with this rub stick. And you can't see it, but we got rid of a lot of this big lump up here in front with that first piece, but we still got work to do. I used to use a heel shave to shape this with, but you got to keep sharpening that thing. And these little safety blades, just drop them every once in a while, and they're sharp as a scalpel. A lot of people are real mystified by a ground seat because there's been so many people talk about it, but it's a pretty simple deal. You just got to keep skiving until you get rid of lumps and bumps and make everything smooth and rounded, and like I say, try to keep it as narrow as possible.
What's your difference in your knives that you just...
This one's got a little more curve to it than the other one, and I did that, you know, off the rack. They're all about the same, but I just bent a little more curve to it. Of course, these are all, I cut off the end and made them left-handed anyway. And if you're left-handed and can bring yourself to learn how to use one of these right-handed, I commend you. I don't know if you can see right here, I'm all the way through. You can see metal right there, so that's as far down as I can go, right in that spot.
I know we talked a little bit about it as we go back and forth between gluing and stuff like this. I think it's an okay question to ask. And I know you probably haven't used the Renia glue on it, but your glue is not really for anything structural.
Right. In this instance, it's really not.
So as long as that Renia would be holding your stuff in place, then it would be okay to use.
I guess so. I've never used it. You know,
Not for building a saddle, you have to
This
use
is the way I've always done it, so that's the way I'm going to show you guys today.
And that's
tomorrow.
with Masters or Barge or what's that other glue we have?
Weldwood is.
Oh yeah,
that's
Weldwood.
what
Chris Andre.
Chris uses, and a lot of people do. I've heard a lot of people use it.
And I think he even said the same thing. Use something that you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Don't use something because somebody else is using it. Use it because you're comfortable with it. So I just felt like this part of the saddle was kind of repetitive, so we can answer some questions while we go
Sure.
through it.
Sure. People can ask whatever they want to. How many have we got watching today?
Let's see. 7 on Twitch this morning and 2 on YouTube.
All right. Okay, this last piece. I guess I'll just cut it to the exact size too. Big laundry sink works pretty good too.
Got those big mop sinks. For those, yeah, what they call those big deep well mop sinks.
Yeah. Alright, let's try that. Now we'll skive on this here. I'm gonna get a little more water on. Sharp as everything, you guys. There's always one side of a piece of leather that's harder to skive than the other. Need to mark anything, just cement the whole deal. The guy that had taken one of the tooling classes came in yesterday. He's from down over in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He said he'd watched our video that you and I made when we repaired that saddle.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so I went and I bought me an old junk saddle and I went all through it just like you guys did.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. He said it came out good. He said as soon as he got it done, a fella came up and asked him to buy it.
There you go.
But he said I wouldn't sell it because it had a lot of sentimental value to me now.
My first repaired saddle.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
Yep.
I think at some point we're all just making something up.
Yep. But if you guys can see, this ground seed is going out and covering those stirrup leather plugs. So when this ground seed is all dried and cured, it'll be hard and it'll hold its shape. You'll take those plugs out and it won't dip in there like...
Can I get belt assistance to retail, please? Belt assistance to retail, please.
People are going to miss that part of our videos.
Yeah. This back part here, you want to cement it pretty good because it dips in and it will create a bridge, and this leather will want to stretch across that bridge if it's not cemented pretty well. So I think I'm going to put a double coat of glue on it. Sorry if I'm not talking a lot to you guys. I'm just trying to make sure I don't forget something or do something I wish I wouldn't have done.
Cut small leather part. Fit, glue, stick.
Yeah,
Skive, fit bigger leather part.
that's right.
I'm going to put a picture on Discord so everybody can see it if you're part of our Discord.
We were talking about that the other day. If you've ever ridden a saddle that when you're trotting and it just keeps slapping you in the butt, you probably, the dish in the seat is too deep. So a flatter dish is to me is a little more desirable than a really deep dish. All right.
Are these all sticks that you've made along
Yeah.
the way?
Yeah. And you don't have to use a stick that's shaped like this. I just made one. Kind of handy to go around outside curves. Works really good when I'm shaping the fork of the saddle. And I think there are people who make these sticks that you can probably buy if we're so inclined. Like I said, the idea is to keep this saddle as narrow as possible. You don't want it to be flat across the top. You want it to arc over. Because if it's flat, when you sit, I don't know if you've ever sat on a saddle and your pin bones were just, that's all you could feel is just those two sides under your hips. You know, it's because the seat was flat right in there. If it was arched, you'd be putting weight on places other than just right there.
The little bumps we've gotten to by this layer are pretty minimal.
Pretty minimal, but yeah, they're still there. I mean, if come over and rub your hand across this, and you can see the spots that you can feel the spots that I need.
Let me see if I can zoom in and get a good shot of it as I go and feel it. All right, I'm pretty zoomed in right here.
Yeah, if you just put your hand across there, you can feel the high spots and
Yeah, like right here is kind of one.
yeah, and if you sat on that, that would feel like there was an egg under you.
Like a 2x4 on
Yeah.
edge.
Yeah.
I had a question earlier about the hole underneath your fork. Are you going to cut that back out, or is it staying?
Oh yeah. It'll cut out after this is all dried and cured.
Okay.
Then it'll cut out.
Very good. Show off that tooling underneath.
Show them those fenders that I got started tooling.
Oh, you started tooling on them?
Yeah,
All right.
the fenders are something I just cut it out to exact size off the pattern. So there's really not much to show there, but I put the tooling pattern on there and I've got it beveled. And
So would your fenders always be kind of the same size?
unless you've got if you've got someone who's real tall or real short. Yeah, this fender will fix anyone from probably 5'4" to 6'1" or 2. You know, anything taller than that, you want to extend the fender out a bit.
One size fits most.
Right.
Oh man,
That's
good.
yeah, that's the basic pattern motif we're going to go in. All those bare spots, I'm going to I've got a little basket weave that I'm going to fill in those bare spots with. I'll show you. Probably Wednesday I'll have those fenders done and you'll be able to see them.
I like that big old bead line you put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be like a meander border inside those two bead lines. Okay, now I'm going to go to the back. Because I've got a severe lump right there and right there that I want to try and get rid of. I need to go over and strop on the wheel. I don't hope
That's right.
I mean, you just got to keep working at it until you get rid of all the
Just gotta worry it.
little spots that are. If you can see right here, there's an open spot that when I come across it, it means there's a dip there. So I've got to get that out because I want it all to transition smoothly from one part to the next. Try something a little different. This is an actual skiving knife, and it's got a real flexible blade, kind of like a fillet knife.
So when you're grounding that in, you got what, three layers on
There's
top?
3 layers.
Is
Yes.
it always 3 layers?
No, it can be 4, it can be 2. Like if I was going to build a cutting horse saddle, they like a real long flat seat. I probably would just put one thin piece on top. Make sure that when I put my strainer in that I had everything just as smooth as possible. Because they don't want any rise in the seat at all. They just want a flat front to back so they can slide up and back.
Feel like they're
Yeah.
moving with the horse the
Yeah.
whole time.
Well, I think I'm going to call that pretty good for right now. after it dries, I might go back and touch it up in a spot or two.
That isn't a knife that we carry.
We used to carry it.
The big butter skiving knife.
Uh-huh. Yeah, here's one right here. I don't know if it's still in our catalog or not. I don't know what the number is on it.
Oh, okay. Let me look. Have you heard of anybody grounding the seat any different than this? Like using a belt sand or anything?
Oh
like
yeah. There's all sorts of different things you can use. A lot of times I'll even use it like a horseshoeing file. You know, that does pretty good as far as actually smoothing stuff off. You know, because every time you run a knife through it, you cause a little dip.
That's what I was noticing with that bigger kind of butter skiving knife. It was catching more area.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like it would get a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can, use your own ingenuity. Anything you can get a hold of that's gonna do the job for you. You know, even an angle grinder maybe. I don't know.
I guess you could. With like a concrete wheel on it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone until it dries. Then I might come back and touch it up a little bit. But that's the idea right there, you guys. Just remember, keep it as narrow as you can back here and in through here. Especially right back in here.
Let me see if I can, do that one more time on the overhead camera there.
Yeah, right in here. Across here, you want this narrow, but you also want an arch across there. So you want to kind of slope it off in a rounded fashion, of course. Because right there, if it's flat, that's where that is gonna create a void under your hind end, you know?
It'll be rough on your tailbone when that saddle comes out and smacks you.
Yeah.
That skiving knife looks like it's 21-15. $20 looks like it's on. We have it on sale right now, or on order.
We're back. Maybe we haven't been gone yet, but anyway, we got the ground seat all in. I'll probably touch it up again after it's dried, but I'm going to wait till it dries because it's kind of mushy right now. But I strapped the seat down. You don't have to do that, but I'm getting ready to punch the holes in this horn and we'll stitch it. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do right now.
Any special tools you're using for that?
Just this is about a 2-inch stitching awl, and I've punched 6 holes per inch is what I marked.
And we did that part in part 1.
Yes. I used to punch each hole as I went, but I've come to find out I can make a neater line on the bottom if I go through and punch all the holes before I start to stitch. And this is a pretty thick horn cap, so you better have a sharp awl. And this is a diamond shaped awl, of course. If you aren't careful and keep exactly the same angle with each hole, your stitch line is not going to be very nice and pretty.
So just keeping your awl as vertical for the angle that the horn is.
Yeah, well, the yawl is diamond shaped, so you want the diamond to be in the same angle all the way around. And you also want to make sure you're coming out in that little groove that you tickled on the bottom of this horn cap. The horn and the back camel are the only two parts of this saddle that I have to hand stitch. When I do that in-skirt rigging, I might hand stitch a small part of that just because it will be easier for me to get to the chain. Okay, I'm gonna get me to move the saddle because I'm getting ready to go around.
Yep, if you can just turn your...
Is that okay?
Yep. You've been laid up in it most of the time. So when would you say that you've gone and you've made a wrong awl punch and you're like, okay, I'm going to have to replace everything I've done on the cap?
You can do that. You can replace everything, or you can go on and make the rest of them right, you know. I mean, it's a piece of leather, so once you put a hole in it, it's always going to be there. Once you make a cut in it, which this awl actually cuts a hole, it doesn't just bulldoze a hole through it, you know. So once you've punched it through there, it's actually cut a slit in that leather, and you can't change that.
Yeah.
On the bottom, you can kind of move it a little bit. You can pull your awl back out and move it to a different spot, and a lot of times you can kind of cover that up some. Now I've put that through. I can barely see the tip of that awl right now.
Yeah.
So there's a little tiny pinprick hole in it.
So there's...
Sometimes the leather is soft enough where it will actually, you can see the leather move before the awl punches through, but this is a firm piece of leather on the bottom and it doesn't do that. But still, I can see that tiny pinprick, and I can move that. I can pull it back out and move it to a different angle if I need to.
Once you start to see the tip of it, when would you say that you got to just go with that hole?
You never have to just go with that hole.
Yeah.
If you punch it all the way through and it's really off, pull it back out and punch a new hole on the bottom. And a lot of times you can smooth that cut out where it's not real visible. It's never desirable to punch two holes for one stitch, you know,
Yeah.
but sometimes it happens.
All right, carry on.
When I was working for Keith Seidel, one of the first things he had me do, and I had stitched a couple of hundred candle bindings before, but he had me stitch a candle binding for him, and I did a pretty poor job of it. And he made me do it over again.
You got better after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. You know, sometimes you just gotta do a do-over. Yeah, you can't see that probably, but you can, the leather actually moved a little bit. I'll go ahead and push it all the way through.
If you keep your head back whenever you start to, if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, let me get to. All right,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
we can
off
see you're
right there.
down. Yeah.
I'm off, so I'm gonna pull it back out. There we go. Now I'm right on the money.
Very good.
There's one that I did wrong, so I'm gonna redo it. See, now I've got two holes, but I would venture to say it won't be very noticeable.
You think your thread will cover it?
I just don't think it'll show, because on the bottom, the lip of that horn's only going to be like 1/8 of an inch, and I think I can burnish most of that out. Okay, now I want to straighten this back up. And I've got to turn the saddle around.
You do what you need to do, and then we'll move cameras.
Okay, before we do that, I'm gonna wax a piece of thread.
But while you wax a piece of thread, I'm going to ask you a question about your awl.
Okay.
And you put a little washer on the end of it.
That's just a little piece of leather to keep it from leaving them. To keep it.
On the horn.
That's just to keep it from making a mark with the collet on that awl, so it doesn't make a mark in the horn cap itself.
What size thread are you using?
This is about a 277. This is actually, and I'd never used it before. When I was working for Keith Seidel, he always used a braided thread, and I had this in my little arsenal over there, and I thought, I'm going to try that. And I used it on the stirrups, and I really like it. But ordinarily, to hand stitch with, I would use like a 6-cord linen thread. But I don't have any. No matter what thread you use, you better wax it. If you don't wax it, you can't hardly handle your thread for one thing, and your stitches won't stay tight.
We had a question about that the other day. Somebody asked them, why would you wax your thread, or could you use on that Eslon thread, do you need to wax it if you hand sew with it? And the answer is yes. It just helps lock those stitches and creates a little bit more friction.
Well, and it helps you handle your thread.
Yeah.
Because that stuff, especially like me in the wintertime, my hands get real dry. You can't hardly handle a piece of thread, you know, like nylon or poly thread. It's so slick. But the wax will completely change the attitude of it. But this is just a piece of beeswax. And I just got the thread wrapped around a nail.
You don't think the brand of thread is really going to matter as long as you like the size of it?
Yeah, I'd like to use the same size on the horn as I'm going to use on the skirts and the back cantle, basically. You know, and in the machine I've got a 277 thread, so this is comparable to that.
You know, and it's a bigger leather project, so you're going to use a heavier weight than you would on a wallet or a...
Oh yeah, yeah. This is. I used to think heavier is better, and I used to use a 346 thread, and that worked out fine. But man, when I look back at that now, it's like I've got a piece of well rope in there. You know, it's just big and homely. This 277 is a big thread, but it's not so big that it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
You know, in the thread, everybody says, well, man, that's not very strong thread if you use like a 138. I could stitch a saddle with a 138 thread and do fine with it, because, you know, that nylon thread, I tell people, you can tow your pickup truck with that stuff. You know, so the strength isn't a factor. Used to be when you used the linen thread, strength is a factor, because linen is just a plant fiber. You know, and a bunch of short fibers that are twisted together. And that's another thing, when they wax linen thread, it adds strength to it. But like I say, this is just a braided nylon thread. I just kind of like the looks of it. It's actually flat. When you're working with it, it kind of rounds it out, but then when you pull it tight, it flattens back out.
Are you doing anything special when you're putting your needle on?
I get the thread through the needle and flatten out one little part of it and stab it.
Will you move your spool? Okay.
Yeah, I've just stabbed that thread. Now, when I pull it tight, that just pulls down over there. It kind of locks the thread so you don't pull it out of the needle when you're stitching.
All right,
All right, you ready?
let's go.
All right, folks. When you're hand stitching, you always want to stitch towards yourself. And I don't know why that is, but if you try to stitch away from yourself, pretty soon you're all out of sorts. So, anyway, I'm going to start. And this is a saddle stitch. We're working on a saddle, right? All right, I'm just going to pull this first one to the middle. Pinch. A lot of saddlers use a jerk needle to do this with, and I have before. When I worked for Keith Seidel, he always used a jerk needle for everything. But this is how I was taught to do it, and I seem to get along with it a little bit better than a jerk needle. So. A lot of hand stitching is staying out of your own way and keeping from tangling everything up.
know what brand of needle you're using? Do you have a preference on it?
They're just the ones we sell here. I believe they're Osborne needles, if I'm not mistaken, from Osborne.
Yeah, or what's that other, something James?
I don't know.
Jim James?
These are just needles I've had around for quite a while. So, and this is the small one, the size 0. I always stick my needle in from the top. That way I can kind of follow it back through from the bottom. It's hard to find that bottom hole a lot of times, unless you can torch yourself upside down and backwards. Another thing, you'll notice I'll pull this bottom thread through a little ways, then when I stick my top thread through, I don't go all the way through, but I pull the bottom thread back. That way I make sure I don't stab that thread. If you ever stab that thread, you're done. You might as well cut it off and make a new piece of thread.
You do it one more time for me? And do it one more time to
Yep.
look at it?
Well, I just bent this here. I just,
Now you broke it.
no, thought I did, but I didn't. Sounded like it. Okay. Now I'm gonna pull. Yeah. Okay, I pulled the bottom thread through a little ways, a foot or so. Then I'm going to stick the top thread back in that hole, but not all the way. Then I'm going to pull that bottom thread and make sure I haven't stabbed it. Did you see it?
Yep.
Okay, this very last stitch. I don't know if you can zoom in on this or not, the very top, the cap.
I think we're good.
Okay, I'm going to take my awl and just actually cut from hole to hole, the last hole. Not very deep, just a little bit. That way, actually bury that last stitch in there. Then I can come back and go one more over it and actually lock that last stitch. See, I buried that one in there. Now I'm going to go back in there and go over it again. And it'll just look like one stitch. There we go. Then I'm going to take a French edger or whatever and slice this thread off. And that's that. Now, I'm gonna move this stuff off the table. Now we're gonna see how good or bad it looks underneath. Not too bad. You there? I'm just gonna rub those down. If you can see right here, there's one that I had to take back out and make an extra hole. But I think if I rub it pretty good, you'll probably never see that. All right. Now I'm gonna put it back upright again. I'm gonna go over the top with this Overstitch wheel. The stitches look pretty good the way they are, but I'm gonna straighten them up a little bit more yet.
All right.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. I'm just gonna go over. All right. That straightened them out pretty good. Now, you ready for the next step?
Go for it.
I'm gonna mark my actual line that I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna go around this stitch line. Got a line to cut to. Okay, what I for sure don't want to do is cut in there and cut my bottom stitch line. So I'm going to try and be exact on top, but I'm going to be kind of at a bevel on the bottom. That's how thick that sucker was.
3 layers.
Yeah. All right, now I'm going to take my handy little horseshoe rasp. First, look on the bottom, see how close I am. Make sure your horn is nice and round. Take my straight knife and straighten this up just a little bit here. I'm gonna call that good. Now I'm gonna take the biggest edger I've got, which is a number 4. I believe they call this a common edger. Alright. Now I'm going to come over here. This is like a 320 sanding block. I'm gonna dampen it a little bit. If you sand it while it's damp, it'll take a lot of that fuzz off.
Give it a little burnish on it too.
Yeah, but I'm getting ready to really burnish it here in a second. I'm going to use some of Duff's saddle soap. You know, the best part about his saddle soap is it smells really good.
That's the stuff we picked up when you're out spiriting.
Yeah. It's basically just a glycerin saddle soap. I'm going to dampen the whole horn because I can't help from getting it on there, and I don't want to dampen just part of it. And I'm just going to rub this soap on the edge. Soap just kind of makes it stick pretty good. It'll make that too.
Ever used like an edge dye pen? And
No, I haven't.
no,
I've dyed the edges just with a,
dauber.
yeah, or a brush or whatever, but never used a dye pen. I'll do that one more time. I want a really nice slick horn rim. The horn is really the most prominent part of the saddle. When you look at a saddle, that's the first thing you see is the saddle horn. So you want it to look pretty good. All right, what do you think of that?
I think you do it one more time.
Think I need to slick it one more time?
Make her shine.
I will. You know,
Once you get
generally,
fully completed.
all the way through the process of this saddle, I'll take and rub the horn again several times.
When you get bored.
Yeah, well, just when I'm standing around and looking at it and thinking, I'm going to shine that again. this will get a horn wrap in the end, so like the only thing you're gonna see on the horn actually will be about that much of it, but still you want the whole thing to look pretty good. I'm kind of happy with the stitch line on top, and the one on the bottom isn't that bad. I got one spot there that I wish I wouldn't have done, but I already did it and I'm not gonna redo it. But if you don't tell anyone, maybe no one will notice it because it is underneath stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, what we've done today is we built the entire ground seat and shaped it. I might primp on it a little bit off camera. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like after it dries. But after we did that, I I punched the stitch holes and stitched the horn. Then I trimmed the horn and we slicked the edge on it. And I guess when we come back on Wednesday, let me see. I think I will probably cut the hole in the handhold for the front of the ground seat and get that all cemented in place. And then I'll probably fit the skirts on it and maybe block them in. I don't know if we'll get them blocked in or not, but we will certainly fit them. And if that all goes right, we might start with the front rigging, get it set up.
Well, we'll see you on episode number 3.
Yeah.